What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Misadventureland Games Podcast. I'm Bobby. I'm here with Justin.
Hello.
How are you doing, Justin?
I'm doing well. I'm currently trying to look up a book to tell one of our favorite friends in chat that they should read it.
You can say it out loud if you want, Justin. Tell Kelsey what do you want her to read.
I'm trying to convince Kelsey to read this book called Never Saw Me Coming, or at least to take a look at it, by Vera Kulin.
Okay.
I think she might enjoy the context of this book, maybe.
So we were getting ready to go today, and this won't surprise anybody who has listened to us or whatever lately. Is right before we started, the internet started being a real SOB, and Justin's camera feed was terrible. But I think we got it. I think it's working out okay. I'm all right. We're here to talk about video games ostensibly, Justin.
I only talk about books now, apparently.
Apparently. We're going to hang out. Our friend Kelsey, reading with Kelsey on YouTube. She's a booktuber. She does great videos. She had a readathon the other night. You should check her out. If you're following us, definitely follow her. We were playing a video game while Kelsey was doing her readathon. We had it open on our, both of us, you and I both had it up on our phones to the side while we were playing a video game called Back for Blood, Justin.
That readathon little thing that she was doing gave me a heart attack twice, because it's this amazing thing. People just get together and then they just don't say anything for 50 minutes while they all read. And then everyone in the chat is also reading and like dropping thoughts and stuff. And it was really quiet. And we are playing Back for Blood. And then all of a sudden there is an alarm clock going off in my ear. And I hear like voices just in the distance. And I'm like, where is this coming from? Oh, it's coming from my phone 3 feet away. They are actually now talking about the last 50 minutes of things that they read. It was fantastic.
Yeah. And also there was an alarm that would go off at the end of the timer, and sometimes it was confusing as to what, for us playing the game, what was happening, because Back for Blood is the kind of game that would have like a weird like alarm going off at some point, you know. Andy, you might not be totally live. You check to see if that little live thing at the bottom is red, because you might be, when you catch up and you hear me say this. Make sure that you do that, because on YouTube it's different than Twitch. It doesn't automatically go to the live, some of the live thing. If you have paused it at all or whatever, it would, it can be a problem sometimes. Let me know if anybody else is having that problem. If anybody's having a problem between what the chat and the other thing is going on, but yeah, we played. We're gonna dive right in and talk about the video games we've been playing. Justin, got a lot of video games to talk about. So we played Back for Blood, which is a four-player cooperative multiplayer game, where if you played a game called maybe Left 4 Dead, Justin, you ever heard of it? Ever heard of Left 4 Dead?
I maybe in passing at some point in my life.
It is a co-op zombie shooter where 4 people playing different characters who kind of have classes. Like there are classes in this game. You are going through missions, and you're kind of going through all missions are essentially very similar. You go from start at a safe house, go to another place, fight off a bunch of zombies, go to the next safe house, go to the next mission. They vary in location, but that is sort of how it goes. There's been a lot of these type of games, kind of recently. I wonder, Justin,
go on,
how you think this one stacks up. Well, let's start. Were you a Left 4 Dead fan?
Yeah, I liked playing Left 4 Dead. The problem is for me, when the Left 4 Dead games were out, I did not have a group of friends who had an Xbox, and that's where I was playing Left 4 Dead. And so I played Left 4 Dead a lot by myself with randoms. So while I enjoyed playing Left 4 Dead, I don't think I had the right experience for it. And that left us like not a sour taste in my mouth, but like I never got to get in on the ground floor, so to speak. Like I never got to really experience what everybody else experienced with that game. And then, not that long after that, things started happening where I started making friends that weren't my childhood friends who refused to buy Xboxes and so on and so forth, and got to experience more multiplayer games. But I never got really in with Left 4 Dead, but I always wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar type of experience. First, I want to say something. Someone who I haven't talked to since high school or a little after high school is in our chat. Peter Biscardi, hello and welcome. That's crazy. Played Danny Zuko in our high school production of Grease. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I just want to give a shout out and say hi. So yeah, I had the same experience Left 4 Dead. I mostly played it. I mean, not exactly the same experience, but I mostly played it single player, honestly. I would jump online sometimes, but I didn't have a bunch of friends who were into that type of game at the time. So I played some of it like, couch co-op with some people here and there, but mostly it was just going to those levels and playing them solo. And so I always enjoyed playing the game, but never really, got into what the game was. And like you said, sort of the reason why people love it, I never had that experience, with the game itself, if that makes sense.
Totally. And I think since Left 4 Dead came out, there have been other attempts to make this type of game. Turtle Rock went off and made Evolve, which didn't take off.
No.
And
you quite liked Evolve, though.
I did really like Evolve in the beginning, but its formula wore pretty stale very fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we've seen other games try and do stuff like this, and even twists of this. Like I think in some way, shape, or form, like Dead by Daylight, or the Predator games is all like kind of takes like 4-player co-op in with some sort of monster element, and there are like offshoots of this. That Aliens Fireteam game came out this year, and its reviews were fine, like okay. And I know there have been more Left 4 Dead clones out there that are just escaping me.
Yeah.
I happen to think that the couple hours we played of Back 4 Blood are the strongest. I think the strongest contender to Left 4 Dead's crown that has come out yet. And it's also, right, isn't it made by Turtle Rock?
Yeah, this is a Turtle Rock game. Yeah. It's the people who made Left 4 Dead, the original Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, the original Left 4 Dead.
Yeah.
So it's them taking another crack at the formula, adding in some changes. And I happen to think that they're nailing it. Now, we're still relatively early in the game. We only played for what, like maybe 2-3 hours?
Yeah, but you played that one night. So probably a little over 2 hours. Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed my time with it. I think it's, just that play session alone was one of the more fun experiences that I've had this year. Now, you could say, granted, hey, anytime you get you, me, and 2 friends, Andy and Mark together, we're going to have a good time.
Yes.
We're going to have laughs. There's going to be Andy doing something completely dumb to kill one of us on purpose. That's always a good time. But I was actually really impressed by how the game played. The reason that these other ones haven't caught on, it isn't just because they don't get the formula right. It's a pretty simple formula. 4 people have to go out to a safe house, get back in, and do it again and again and again. It's relatively easy. But the game plays in a certain way. Like, I was kind of impressed with the gunplay. I thought the guns all felt pretty good. And what they're doing much differently this time is they're doing this card system. Now, I know everyone is going to hear that, and they're going to cringe. They're going to cover their ears and run out of the room screaming like I just cursed their favorite god. But what's neat about it is you can go in and you just get a very basic starter deck. And at the end, end of every level, before or end of every checkpoint, right as you're hitting the safe house, you get into the safe house, you can pick a new card to put into your active deck, which now means that card is just like basically an ability or a perk that you are now equipping for this run. And they can stack. So they start out very simple. They start out with 5 health, 10% stamina. And now you could stack those things on top of each other. Some of them are, oh, well, you could take every time you melee somebody to death, you get back 2 health. The more you play, the more like in-game currency you accrue, and then you can buy more cards at the end of your entire run. You die, you go back to your camp with your teammates, and then you can now buy more and more cards. And I have seen, we played for about 2.5 hours. We didn't actually tap out. We had to quit because we ran out of time for the night. And we went back to camp, and I unlocked, I kid you not, like 30 different cards to play with. And now you could start looking at them and be like, well, I could take 10 of these into a deck or whatever it is, maybe 10 to 15. And so now you're mixing and matching. And so there are more and more to unlock. So you could do entire builds based on melee, reload speed, stamina, health, whatever you want. And now you're like mixing and matching. That's one of the things that I really liked about it. But how did you feel when you were playing it?
I had a great time playing with you guys, and like I think as far as the card systems goes, I think I think they get a very particular reaction, but it's really just a more visual way to do a perk system, right? It could very well just be like a toggle you hit or a tree that you pick from as you go through. It could just be that. It's just a more visually pleasing way, right, to see that perk system, which I think is totally fine. I think just as removing like the really good time we had playing together and messing around, because what I'll say is like, I only sort of hedge what I'm saying because we spent 20 minutes killing each other in like the range at the beginning of the game, and we're laughing and having a great time, and that had nothing to do with the game, right? It was just it just existed, and it happened to be a way for us to hang out. But I think it feels good to play. I think the guns feel good, and I like the perk system quite a bit, and I like that different characters have sort of like different abilities. Like my character can res super fast as long as she has any healing items like in her inventory. And I think occasionally the game itself, and we got a question from Andy in our Discord. What is your favorite thing about Back 4 Blood, and why is it the jukebox level? This jukebox level, basically, it is one. It's like in the first act or whatever of the game that you're playing. This first set of levels, and you're tasked with basically distracting other players, distracting zombies. Sorry. By playing a jukebox in a bar. So you play jukebox in a bar, so zombies will attack you and will let these survivors run away and survive. And you have like a amount of people who are escaping a number above you, and it plays a song. We got Black Betty, and then we also got Tick Tick Boom by the Hives, which I haven't heard that song in, I don't know, 12 years or whatever. And that was cool because we had to redo it because we failed once. And the music, it's very like Shaun of the Dead, music playing, you're fighting zombies, music's like loud, like blaring in your ears, and just wave after wave coming into this little area. And it was a lot of fun. Like the mission itself was a lot of fun, and adding the music was great. And like, if we were to sit there and write down like a list of the best, sequences or moments of the year, that would 100% be on it. I would say that my warning to people would be like, if you want to play this game and you don't have a group to play with, it doesn't seem like playing solo is a really viable way to play the game. You don't get achievements. None of the cards you unlock in your solo campaign will transfer over to any of the multiplayer stuff. So if you want to start solo and go to multiplayer, you couldn't do that. You can play, I mean, when I say solo, I mean like alone with bots. If you want to go online and play with randos, you can of course do that. And it will count towards all of that stuff. I also just think like playing solo, I think it would probably get it would get more tiring faster, because the thing I will say about the game is, again, we played for 2.5 hours, so maybe this changes as we go along. There isn't what I would call a great variety in the type of enemy that you are facing. There is like 3 or 4 kind of zombies, and you see 3 of them from the moment you start basically playing the game, you know?
Yeah.
And so far we haven't really got much new, and there hasn't been a lot of like terribly interesting level design. You know what I mean? Like we, you know, or moments, or kind of like moments that create this really fun sort of manic, like the jukebox level, what I'm talking about, you know? That is my reservation about the game, is like, is it still going to be fun after another 2 play sessions? You know, are we going to be like still itching to go back, or is it gonna be like, okay, we kind of saw this, like it's been fun, but you know, I don't know, you know, how much longer we can do it. I also think that, and Justin, you mentioned this the other night, we started on, it defaults to easy or rookie, and we put it on the next level up because it was like, oh, if you've played, basically the next level is like, if you've played video games and want a little bit of a challenge, this should be fine. Like we couldn't get out, 4 of us playing together, talking on mic, couldn't get past like the second or third encounter 2 different times.
And we knew where to go too, because we played the beta.
Yeah, 2 different times. We put it on easy, and we kind of rolled through it. I mean, there were a couple times where we still failed in the game, but it didn't feel like it was like a natural step between those 2 things.
No, it feels like there should be a difficulty in between those 2 things.
Yeah.
Because we were popping off headshots like no problem.
Yeah.
I think that it's interesting that the game, I think, wants you to fail a decent amount in the beginning, at least, because then you're going back and you're unlocking more cards.
Mm-hmm.
And the more cards you have, like I would like to bump the difficulty back up. Now that we've unlocked more cards, I want to see the game on the way that they're saying, like, look, if you've played a video game before, played on this difficulty, and having those reload speed cards or those extra health cards or those, you know, the ones that we were unlocking afterwards, I would like to play the game with those.
Yeah.
You know, as long as there's new stuff to see, you know, I definitely want to finish the campaign out, and then, you know, we'll reassess then. But as far as like, you know, like Andy is in chat right now and he's just like, I can make a game better just by being there. And like, hey, look, if you're with your friends, you're always going to have a good time. We played the entirety of Outriders, a middling video game.
Yes, absolutely.
And we had fun doing it. So yes, of course, being with your friends is always going to elicit some sort of positive response, especially in me. But I think maybe saying that as of right now, I was really enjoying myself. Both things. I thought the game was better than I was originally giving it credit for. Because look, like we're in end of the year mode, right? Like we are now starting to compile lists of like, these are the things that we have to play, and these are the things that I think that you should play. You think that I should play. These are things that we need to get to. Back 4 Blood was like, we're gonna play that, of course, but that's not gonna rate at all in any of these conversations, I don't think.
Right.
And like after playing that pub level, I was like, I messaged you, I was like, based on the strength of that alone, I have to like play more of this because I really enjoyed myself. Like I think you can think very fondly of a game for it being just a lot of fun, and be also playing well. So we'll see where it goes. We've already talked about it more than I wanted to, since we've only played about 2 hours, but I really enjoyed it, and I think that we're gonna have a hell of a time continuing with it.
I'm looking forward to playing more of it for sure. Alejandro asked, what is the incentive for higher difficulty? I'm assuming you get more of like the resources that you use to buy cards later on. That would be my assumption, but I don't know that for sure. I'm just kind of speaking out of my ass on that one.
I would also think maybe the incentive is, it depends on it, like if you're playing with a group of friends or whatnot. But like, I have no problem sitting there and just chewing the shit with these guys, and you know, talking about our days or whatever, and doing mindless stuff. That's what most of Destiny is, until we start getting into like the Nightfalls and the raids and stuff. But I especially like it when we're playing something and shit just goes sideways.
Yeah.
And there's tension. There's like, I don't know how we're getting out of this. Somebody just run for the exit. We did have one of those moments where we all went down and Mark went around the building and got to the exit because he saw that bad shit was happening.
Yeah.
I like that. Like, I really enjoy those things.
Yeah. Yeah, but I guess my question too is, we didn't have the situation after because the times we played on normal, we died very, very early, so there was no like restart point for us. I don't know what the restart point is if you die, because sometimes we get through a mission and it would be like, oh, new restart point here, but it didn't happen after every mission, you know. So I don't know if you had to restart at the beginning of the act or the because like the act is broken up into these like little mini nodes. So you'll see like 3 little circles, and it'll put you on one of the circle. And
I always thought that it was in Left 4 Dead. It was always the safe houses. The safe houses were the spawn point wherever you are.
So I don't know, because like this has like continues that you get.
Yeah.
And stuff. So and you have get very few continues. You get like one continue.
One continue.
The fact that it has a counter makes me feel like that there's some way you can get more, but I don't know. Like I don't know if it's like, okay, if you die like these 3 little nodes, right? If you die in the 3rd of these 3 connected nodes, you just start again at the beginning of the first. I don't know. This thing is I don't know, because we didn't fail out enough to get rid of our continues, right? So I don't know. So yeah, I mean, to me, it's like I'm fine at being hard and like us, like, you know, if things going crazy and us just getting out by the skin of our teeth. But if the penalty for dying or losing is too extreme, then that's just not the reason why.
Yeah,
I'm there.
I can see that. Yeah,
you know,
I'm fine starting back at the previous safe house, because the distance from safe house to safe house, once you know what to do, where to go, relatively short, and it's just like, okay, relatively like
short.
You're running from one end to the other, but if you don't know where it is, then that's a problem.
Yes, 100%, that's a problem. So yeah, so I mean, again, we had a good time. It's on Game Pass, so if you have a PC or you have an Xbox, it's very easy to try it and check it out.
Very easy for crossplay as well.
Because it is crossplay, it's very easy for crossplay. I'm, you know, playing this, you know, we say like, oh man, like, you know, we're having a good time, and I wonder, the question that comes to my mind is like, would we have had a worse time playing Aliens? Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm honestly curious about like comparing those experiences now that we had the good time we had playing, you know, this one. So I'm curious about that kind of thing. But yeah, it was a cool game. So check that out if you have Game Pass. It's pretty fun. I mean, if you have a group of people to play with, you know, I would say you probably check it out anywhere and you'd be fine. But especially if you have an Xbox or you have a PC, that is Game Pass. Should I talk about Metroid, Justin?
Yes, go ahead.
You sound very begrudging about me talking.
I'm just trying to think. Do you want to close out on Metroid? Or do you want to go now? Why don't you go now?
Okay. So, Metroid Dread came out this past Friday. I'm curious, Justin. A little exercise, a little experiment here. Mm-hmm. Why don't you ask me what you are curious about Metroid Dread?
I could do that.
Okay.
Is Metroid Dread as hard as the internet is making it seem?
Not all of it. I will say it is not a continuously hard game, is what I will say. It's not like you're gonna get your ass whipped from the moment you load in till the moment the game closes out. That's not the kind of game it is. It does have hard moments, and I would say the bosses are usually pretty hard. And the enemy encounters get increasingly difficult as you progress through the game. So if people don't know, like, you know, Metroid Dread it's a 2D Metroid game. It's exploration based. So, you know, you are fighting enemies, fighting bosses, gaining powers that will help you traverse and explore the map that you're on more. So, I am in this area and there's a door that has a weird block on it. I can't go through it. Oh, I can't open that door until I get this particular like upgrade for my beam or whatever. My arm beam, my arm cannon. And you're unlocking parts of the map and you're going to different areas and coming back to backtracking back to areas to unlock new things and fight new enemies and do other stuff. This game is made by Mercury Steam, who made Metroid Samus Returns, or the Metroid Samus Returns. It's a remake of Metroid 2, which is either called Samus Returns or Return of Samus. I don't remember which one. Which was good. It was good. And the fact they were making it had me excited. This is the first totally new Metroid game since Other M. So I think like 10 years since the first full-fledged Metroid game. Metroid Samus Returns. Thank you very much, Grit. And in this story, basically, you play as Samus Aran, obviously the famous bounty hunter of the galaxy, who is going to this planet called ZDR to basically she received a transmission that this X parasite, this thing that they thought they had eliminated from the galaxy, this very dangerous organism, is still, there's one still alive. They send ahead these Emmy robots and a kind of team to try to find them and eradicate them because the Emmys are indestructible. They lose contact with them, so they send Samus in to try to figure it out, because Samus, not only is she a world famous bounty hunter, she's immune to this X parasite. She's the only living organism known that is immune to this parasite, that can take over a person's body and or living thing's body and basically ape their existence, essentially.
If I've never played a Metroid game, will any of this make sense to me?
Yeah, it'll make sense to you. I mean, look, the story, I will say this, there is a story in the game. It's told through mostly, Samus is almost completely silent. Not completely, but almost completely. That, and there's an AI with her that is kind of instructing her. There are going to be references they make, Justin, that you're going to be like, I don't know what they're referencing here, but it's not going to take away from the in-game sort of progression that you're experiencing. I can probably in 5 minutes catch you up on the story of the Metroid series up until this point, if you want me to.
We'll do that later.
Okay, because I can do that.
Here's a question for you.
Yes.
This game's reviewing very well.
It is.
And it is the Metroid in Metroidvania.
Mm-hmm.
But is it on its own a good Metroidvania?
Well, it isn't a Metroidvania, because the Vania part of Metroidvania is the RPG elements that Symphony of the Night and stuff introduced. So it's only half of that equation, but is it in itself stacked up against modern iterations of these games, right? Because there's a lot of them, right? You're asking does it stand up to that scrutiny of these other games?
Yeah.
And I think yes, it does. I mean, when I was texting you about it when I was playing it, I was fully expecting, okay, this is gonna be just a good kind of comforting, nostalgic kind of throwback Metroid game, right? And it's probably going to have a very basic traversal and all this kind of stuff, and I'll be happy with it because I've got a Metroid game in a long time. And I was kind of floored at how much it sort of leveled up on the way that Metroid plays and controls and feels. Mercury Steam has done an amazing job with the movement. The slide that they introduce in this game is such a great movement mechanic, and the quality of the animation is such that all of the moves feel just really good. You have there's so much care put in animation, down to the point where if Samus is, sometimes there are these little tunnels that Samus can't get in because maybe she can turn into something else at some point that can get her into little spaces, maybe some sort of ball form or something like that.
I've never played Smash Brothers. I'm unfamiliar with what you're talking about.
When you push forward on the stick, whereas later on she'll turn into the ball and fill in, she kind of just puts her hand on you see her hand come out, and her hand goes on the top of the the little space, and she kind of looks in a little bit while you're doing it, little details like that with the animation, and the game just feels, because you have to do a lot of moving around, a lot of removing around, a lot of spaces. The way the game moves and feels is very important, because you don't want, when you have to backtrack through an area, you don't want it to feel like a slog, right? You don't want to feel I hate getting from A to B. I don't want to do this anymore. And the game does a very good job of you not feeling like that, especially because every time you come back to an area, you have some new set of abilities that that you get that make the traversal different, or make your experience in a play space different. And also the areas change throughout the game at times as well.
Are you playing mostly docked or mostly handheld?
So I was house sitting for my parents for the first 2 days it was released. So I had it just in docked. So I played probably the first half of the game in docked mode. And it was fine, but the Switch is, while it's not a heavy console, it is heavier than, a controller, a regular controller. And there are, I kid you not, by the time I was done, Justin, there is probably like 9 or 10 like discrete abilities that you can use that all involve button or multiple button presses to do. So holding that thing, like sometimes
so you're playing undocked.
I was playing undocked. Sorry. I was playing undocked for a while. Holding that thing and kind of contorting my hands onto those little tiny buttons to try to do certain things definitely had my hands cramping a little bit by the time I was ready. And I was like, okay, you know what? This has been fine. I'm going to wait until I'm home and play this with the controller. And since I played on the controller, it's gotten much smoother. And I think the reports of how quote unquote grungy it looks on a TV are a little bit overstated. It's not running in, I think it's not running in 720, it's running in like 1600 by 900 or something like that to maintain the frame rate, the frame rate, the 60 frames per second frame rate. So, you know, if you're playing on a 4K TV, of course it's not going to look super crisp, but it definitely does not look as grungy as I was fearing, I guess, because the game overall looks really good. Like it has really nice lighting effects, really nice environmental effects. Like uses like color and lack of color and film grain to really interesting effect.
How long? You're on the last boss.
I'm on the last boss.
How long is it taking you to get there?
So I will say the game clock, I think, is a little bit skewed because I don't think I don't know if they count the time in which like you're dying, you know, like if you run into an enemy room and you go through like 45 seconds trying to get through the enemy room and then you die, I don't know if it counts that like 45 seconds or whatever, you know, that you're doing. So I'm not totally sure. I think I've played though around like the game says I played like 8 hours, but I think I've actually played like 13 or 14 hours, I think, at this point in like actual world time. I think I'm waiting for that the Switch system clock to go from you started playing this game 5 days ago to here's the amount of hours you've played the game. I'm in that weird like middle part.
But it sounds like you're really enjoying it.
I am absolutely loving it. Yes. So you mentioned about the difficulty, right, of the game. And I will say that the back third of the game is very difficult. like punishingly difficult at times. You know, I'm talking like, you know, I'm fighting a boss 10, 11, 12 times sometimes. Jeez. They do a very good job checkpointing. Like most of the time you're just sort of like put outside the door of wherever you have to go next to give you the opportunity to say, I don't want to do this right now. I'm going to go explore and get more missiles or get more energy tanks or whatever, you know? So you sometimes you have to like jump onto a platform and turn into a ball and fall down a hole or something before it will re-trigger the boss fight again or the Emmy encounter again.
Do they make it very clear when you're in a spot that you're not supposed to be yet?
Well, yes. I mean, well, there are types of I know you haven't played a full Metroid game before, so there are types of rooms. There's like rooms that are really hot and rooms that are really cold, and your thing will start going meh, meh, meh if you walk into that area, you know, like, and you'll start losing health immediately if you walk into that area. So those rooms are always off limits. There will be a point where you reach a point where you're like, okay, like this is like a because if you shoot blocks like they're destroyable, but you don't have the item to destroy them with yet, it'll basically reveal like a symbol on the block. So like, I don't know what this like lightning bolt symbol is, but I don't have it yet, so I can't do anything. Or like this door has like a green barrier on it. I don't know what that is. I can't get through that yet. And then you'll have to figure out where to go next. The game, unlike its direct predecessor, Metroid Fusion, does not point you like Metroid Fusion was like, here's where you go next, beep beep beep, like, and basically this is the next area you have to get to. Metroid Dread does not do that. Metroid Dread is just like, you'll talk to your AI guy at some point. He'd be like, you know, you have to kind of get to this area. But then sometimes when you beat a boss, it's like, okay, I just gotta I gotta try to find where to go next. Most of the time the game is subtly guiding you. It's not telling you where to go, but it'll be like, okay, I just beat a boss, and now the next room I go into has an elevator in it or a tram in it that goes to another area. That is the game telling you it's time to go to the next area. Don't worry, we're not sending you to the wrong place.
Okay.
There are little subtle clues. Like sometimes you'll see these little like look like moths like around these lights, and that is telling you like this is where you're supposed to go. Like you haven't been here yet, and this is where you need to go. So it does that. Also, the important thing to know about Metroid games is, okay, I just beat this boss and I got the super missile. Probably what I want you to do is go find a place you couldn't access before that required a super missile. And what the map does, which is really cool, and I've never seen a game like this do this before, and I don't know why. So let's say you're like, okay, I just got this missile, this super missile, and I just opened the super missile door that was like the barrier out of the boss room. I can hover over that super missile door on the map, hit a button that says highlight all icons, and it will then on the entire map highlight every single place on the map you've been that has a super missile door. That
fantastic.
You can now yeah, it's really cool. And that way it also has custom markers. So if you were like, okay, it says I need to get to the elevator to Catharsis or whatever. Let me mark the elevator to Catharsis, and it will stick on your mini map for a good amount of time, so that you can sort of navigate towards it. I think I will say this. There were definite times where I got lost, like where I was like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go right now, and I would look for doors that I hadn't been to. Or I would look for areas on the map that weren't uncovered, that sort of thing too. You look at the map, you see like, oh, these two rooms I haven't gotten to yet. This is maybe where I need to go. So they do stuff like that. And I will say this: if you get to a point you're like, I don't know where else to go, I don't understand what I have to do, just start shooting around. Just start shooting your blaster around, because there are probably some hidden blocks that you can destroy that will get you to the next area pretty quick. So that's a big tip for everybody. Oh, this is my tips. That also if you get into a combat encounter, let's say after you've acquired an object, you've acquired a weapon or some sort of thing, and you're having a lot of trouble with that particular combat encounter, it might be the game telling you, we want you to use the new thing that you just got in order to, best beat this boss or this mini boss that you're fighting. And the third thing, my third tip, is that sometimes in the big boss fights, and you'll know when you're in one of the big boss fights, it isn't necessarily about spamming damage as it is discovering the thing they want you to do to sort of trigger the next phase of the boss fight. So if you notice you're doing a boss fight and it just seems to be repeating the same phase over and over and over again, there's probably some way you can draw the boss out to do a counter of some kind, because that's a big thing about this game too. It was in Samus Returns. This counter mechanic, which is you'll be fighting enemies, they'll do an attack, and there'll be like a flash. You hit this counter button, you'll knock them, you'll sort of stun them, and then you'll one-shot kill them, and it's incredibly satisfying and it feels wonderful. You can do that with some bosses as well. So look for those counter moves, or look for things that maybe if you're beating your head against the boss doing one thing and it's not working, it's because the game wants you to do something else, like to beat the boss. So that's just something to remember, because it is like it is something that I think people can get stuck on and frustrate them. And as I said, the end of the game is very, very hard. And there was one boss in particular where I got like angry, I was like, what the fuck? I can't do this, and especially the end, they string together a bunch of encounters in a row that are all very hard, sprinkled in with the hardest Emmy room in the entire thing, where I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to get through this, like that kind of feeling.
But you made it.
But I made it, and it felt really, really good when I made it. And the game makes you feel really good when you get powers and because there's water in the game, and when you're walking through the water, you walk really slow. But eventually you get an upgrade that makes you basically move as fast underwater as you move above the ground.
Ooh.
And it feels so good because you spend so much time slogging through this water that when you get this upgrade, you're like, you feel unstoppable in those moments. The last thing I'll say about the game, which I think is really cool, is they do these really neat things. The game is, all in 2D, but during certain moments, the camera pulls in and it goes into more of like a 3D cutscene sort of environment where it goes into like the camera's moving around Samus, it's moving around the environment, it's moving around something that's happening. Some of these will just be cutscenes where she walks into a room and there's a character who's talking to her or she's seeing something happen. But I sent a video to Kelsey earlier because I texted Kelsey. I was like, Kelsey, Kelsey super loves Samus and Metroid, and I was like, I know you don't care about spoilers. Do you want me to send you some sick ass shit that Samus does in this game? And she said absolutely. And I sent her this video, and I'm not gonna obviously it's not a spoiler just to mention the kind of concept, which is that you'll be fighting bosses sometimes, and you'll go into what is sort of like a quick time event sort of situation where you have to you parry them, and then it kind of goes into like this like transition between phases, and the camera will just dynamically swoop in, and all of a sudden you'll be doing like some sick ass shit. And you can't control where Samus is running, but you can still control her firing ability. So you're like jumping on the back of bosses' necks and like shooting your arm cannon like into their head as the boss like climbs up the side of a building, like that kind of shit.
That sounds great.
And it's really cool. And what is so great about this is that the reason I fell in love with Metroid when I was a kid was I thought the design of Samus was so damn cool. Right. And I still think to this day, I think she's still one of the coolest looking characters in video games. And in this game, they make her do so much cool shit. Like she just seems like the most capable, badass person like in the galaxy. Like, all the action movie like tropes, like I'm gonna warm up my charge up my blaster, turn my back, and just put my arm back and shoot this thing in the face as it tries to like come back to life and kill me. Or I blew up this thing and I'm just going to walk away without looking back at the explosion. It really, really neat stuff. And yeah, so it's great. Here, the couple of negatives I will say just very fast are that there's basically no accessibility options whatsoever in the game. So there's no difficulty modes. That's one thing. But there's no way to like remap any of the buttons or to change buttons from hold to tap, stuff like that. There is none of that stuff. And Nintendo is terrible at accessibility stuff. They're just like terrible at it. So that is the same here. And there are definitely times, and I'm telling you, where it's like, so when you're fighting an Emmy, right? You get this, it happens right away in the game. So this is not a spoiler. You can't, none of your regular weapons can hurt them at any point in the game. There is that you beat these certain like enemies in each of their zones, and it charges up your hand cannon to become an omega beam, and you basically have to like get enough runway between you and the Emmy to like burn its like faceplate off by you have to hold L, and that makes you go over the shoulder so you can see the Emmy coming. You have to tap Y to quick shot and burn the face off. Then you have to hold down R to charge up your beam, and then tap Y to shoot the charged up shot.
This sounds bad.
It's a lot of buttons, and it's not even that it doesn't feel good or it feels weird. It's just that is one sequence buttons you have to hit, and there are 10 other combinations of buttons to do a bunch of things at the same time. So you get all of these abilities, like stuff that you use clicking in the stick, stuff that you use hitting A, stuff that you use hitting Y, stuff that you use hitting X, A, combinations of R, like, R and A and R, all this stuff. So there is a lot of different abilities in the game, like a ridiculous amount of abilities. So sometimes those controls can get taxing on your brain. And there were a few times with the Emmy encounters where I felt like this is not, I would say 90% of the time I was like, this is challenging, and sometimes it's a pain in the ass, but it's like a fun cat and mouse game, and it also gives a sense of stakes to all of these rooms, right? Because it's so hard. But there were a couple of times where, you know, I was just like, this is a little bit of a slog to get through. There are definitely those moments in the game which I don't think they pass the point of like difficult fun and just become difficult. So there is that, which I think is a detriment to the game for sure. But I think the overall sense of difficulty really helps the game and really helps you get that feeling of, I am this one person who has like basically this whole entire world against her, this entire planet against her. And also, I mentioned this to you, Justin, it is wild that Nintendo in the year 2021 put out a video game that is this, like, that disregards player sort of ease as much as Metroid Dread does. Because usually Nintendo does everything in their power to make sure that there is some way that the game can be played by the youngest of people or the oldest of people, and that is not what Metroid Dread is doing.
There's a very simple explanation for that, is that Nintendo does not give two shits about Metroid, and they handed it off to Mercury's team to be like, I don't know, you guys make it. And they were like, okay, we're going to make a Metroid game. And Nintendo's like, wait, no. And they're like, oh, it's too late. That's basically what happened here.
Yeah. Did we have any questions or comments in the chat about Metroid, Justin, while I was going there? I couldn't really look because I was...
No, everyone's just pretty much just talking about their experiences with it.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm interested to see what you'll think. I said to you the other day, I was like, I definitely think I'm going to get texts from you at certain points in the game being like, this game is garbage. I can't believe you like this. I hate this.
I would never say that about a game you really like.
The last 2D Metroid Groon was Zero Mission, right? I mean, if you don't count Samus Returns as a 2D Metroid, like, it's not new, it's a remake, and it's kind of like 2.5D. The last totally new Metroid game was, I think, Zero Mission, which was 2006? And so, I don't know. I don't know when Zero Mission came out. I'm gonna look it up right now. When did Metroid Zero Mission come out? Metroid Zero Mission. Release date. February 9th, 2004.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. February 9th, 2004 is when the last new 2D Metroid came out. And that's not even like, that's a remake of the first game. That's I mean, it's a lot different about it, but like technically the last totally new 2D Metroid game that came out was on November 18th, 2002. You know,
so is this your current game of the year?
I think so. Yes. I think it's my current game of the year. Do you know what else came out on November 18th, 2002? Metroid Prime. A very good day for Nintendo fans.
I bet. Well, I'm looking forward to getting to it. I really am. I've tried to play Metroid games in the past. I tried to play Samus Returns a couple years ago on the 3DS.
Yeah.
I got maybe like 2, 3, 4 hours into it, and it was just like, something about this I just was not jiving with. I'm really hoping that's not the case with this one, but I'm gonna give it the good old college try.
I think the speed of the game, Justin, will be to your liking. Yeah, for sure. Samus Returns was very good, but that's what I meant at the beginning of the conversation. That's what I expected. I expected something on the level of Samus Returns, which is a game that I loved because I love Metroid games, right? And I was like, this is just good. You're playing a Metroid game again. But this was another level above that, which is why I'm so impressed by what it is. The FPS Hunters, Metroid Prime Hunters, was the 3DS was the DS first person game, Kiki. Federation Force was on the 3DS and is like barely a Metroid game. So not even really a Metroid game. So anyway, Justin, I mentioned what I think my game of the year is now. What do you think your game of the year is now?
So I put lots of time into Deathloop. And wow, guys, Deathloop is really, really fucking awesome. That's I'm trying to figure out where I want to start
So
here.
let me ask you a question.
You ask me some questions.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you some questions. I know that you love arcane games in general, right? You are a big fan of this studio and the output that they put out.
Yes.
Is there anything, and this is not to say those games aren't great. This is not a qualifying any of the arcane games is quality. Is there something about this game that makes it like much like you asked me about Metroid, that makes it something other than just I love arcane games and so I also love Deathloop?
I think the structure of this game is so different that it stands alone. Like those other games are simmy games, right? But Dishonored is level based, where you're just trying to get from point A to point B for the most part. There are objectives in the level, but there's an escape route and everything. They're big they're sandboxes to play in. You go into a level, you load in, you do your thing, you get out. In some ways, Deathloop's similar to that as well. Prey is kind of it's a first-person shooter on a space station. So you're going around this space station doing objectives. I think what makes Deathloop so interesting to me is just it's a mashup of a couple of different things, right? It's a first-person shooter. It's a Hitman game. It's a immersive sim. It's Dishonored powers. It takes all of those things and combines them into something that feels pretty fresh, feels new. And whether or not it is a new thing is up for debate, but it really feels like they knocked this out of the park. The thing about it is, right, I started playing it. We talked about it when we first started playing the game. It is not a game that I can just sit down and veg out, turn my brain three-quarters off, and just play, right? And I enjoy the hell out of those games. It's like it is specifically like I'm looking at you, Far Cry 6, as the game that I want to do that with, where I am listening to the Met game or whatever sports team, the Knicks, right? It's that time of year. And I'm checking Twitter and I'm playing a game as a form of just like, I need my brain to go numb for a couple of hours. You can't do that with Deathloop at all. And so for me, I had to find the right time to like prepare myself for it. And so I probably I'll say about 13 to 15 hours in the last week. And I'm blown away by it. I'm blown away by the presentation. The things that the game wants me to do are things that I'm not really accustomed to doing. Let me give you an example. I don't like Hitman games. I don't like playing Hitman games for the sole reason of I would never play a Hitman game by myself. I would play Hitman on stream with you to cause as much chaos as possible. But I'm never going to be the type of guy who sits down and plays Hitman the correct way by myself. It just doesn't interest me enough. And this game has that, right? And even after that, like that first night with it, it didn't feel like something that I was 100% going to absolutely love. Chat saying I need to come up.
You've been the same level the whole time. I don't know.
Okay.
I'll turn you up though.
Okay. So after playing it for these 13 to 15 hours, I realized, I was wrong. And I'm doing things that I wouldn't do in other games. So like, for instance, right, there's a safe, right? There's a safe that you can find in the first level. And it's just like, well, normally I would just be like, yes, I could probably go scrounge around the level and try and figure this out. Or, I'm in a hurry. And this is just a safe where I'm going to get some sort of upgrade. I'm 100% going to look up the answer to this. The game won't let you do that because the codes for everybody's safes or safe rooms, they're all different, which I think is fantastic. I've never seen a game do that before. So at best, the game, what these videos will do is be like, look, I can't give you the answer. I can only show you the path. And I was like, well, I'm just going to do this on my own then. And so I kept sitting here and figuring this stuff out. And some of the puzzles are pretty clever. Another, for instance, is the basic idea of the game is you want to kill 7 targets in one go. So the game is split up 4 time periods and 4 locations. So you could visit these time periods morning, noon, afternoon, and night. And by doing that, the levels change. Not the actual like structure of the level, but like different paths might be open to you. Characters that you don't kill in the morning will show up later, as opposed, or vice versa. If you kill the character, they're not going to be around later to open up a door for you. So it's kind of like a puzzle box that you have to figure out. What you want to do is you got to kill these 7 targets across these time periods, but they're not all in the same place. And you got to figure out a way in the game to herd them together. Get a couple of them in one level at a time, and then go ahead and just wipe them out. So I know for sure that I've got 2 of them behind this door that is blocking me right now. And it is not a door with a code. It is not one of the ones that will stop me from doing it. This is what they want me to do is they want me to visit this area again at a different time of day and go scope out this place. But before I could do that, I need to go somewhere else and get a safe, open a safe, and figure out whatever combination I need to do that, open it up, and then piece these 2 things together. That'll tell me how to open the door. Now, I could have just looked that up. That stuff is pretty easy. It's basically like pictures, and you have to just press the right picture. So I could have looked that up. But I messaged you, and I said, I'm fascinated by the rules of this game, and because of that, I'm playing by its rule book. I'm doing what it wants me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm visiting all these time periods multiple times, and just poking at it to see, if I do this, if I do A, what happens to B and thus C? I'm like, okay, I've seen what happens now. I see the dominoes that are falling into place. I don't need that. I need something else. And it's like, oh, there's a window there that is ajar. And it's in a place that I've been, but I haven't looked up and teleported up to it. You teleport up to it, and I can look through it, and there's that writing on the wall that only I can see. And it's like, okay, at some point I can get into this room. I just have to figure out how. And so I'm kind of going at this thing at a very slow, meticulous pace where I am experimenting grandly. And I'm like, okay, I'm sometimes spending way too much time in one level just seeing is there anything I possibly could have missed? And I've now got it to where I have 6 of the 7 targets. Basically, I know how to herd them. I know how to get them where I need them to go. And it's the last target that I need to figure out. And then I will go forth, try and get them all in one shot, and then beat the game. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to yet. I'm having too much fun, and I'm too absorbed in the lore of the game that I want to continue to poke at it and find these side stories and see what the real meat of the game is. And so that's where I'm at right now.
I'm curious because to go back to a previous point you had about the Hitman games, now that you've been playing this game and sort of poking at it in the way you're poking at it and sort of playing by its rules, as you said, does that make you more interested in maybe going and playing a Hitman game? Because there is a lot of similarities between, I think, Deathloop and Hitman in many ways.
Yeah, there is. But I need to play Hitman 3 before the end of the year.
You do.
But I can tell you that I don't feel any extra desire to go back to it or go to it. Because I think the difference between Hitman and Deathloop is it doesn't matter how you play Deathloop. It really doesn't. If you want to go in guns blazing, it's going to let you do that. And it's not going to penalize you for doing so. Going in guns blazing in Hitman is my usual strategy. It's difficult. And you pretty much got to wipe out the entire level. I've done that before. And I think what makes this better for me is I'm enjoying the power set that they give you so much that it makes it, I don't want to say easier, but it adds a different dynamic to it. Look, I'm not going to lie to you. Picking up a fire extinguisher in Hitman and yeeting it across a room to hit a target in the head never gets old.
No.
It's never going to get old. But I feel like for some reason when I'm playing that game, I want to be playing it on a stream or with you or just doing the maximum amount of dumb stuff possible. In this game, it's not like I'm trying to do dumb stuff. It's just everything that I'm doing makes me feel awesome. Whereas in Hitman, the awesome stuff that I see other people do, I always fuck up in some sort of way. I'm never gonna be able to become the chef and poison somebody and like do all that stuff as easily as I'm doing the cool shit in Deathloop. And Deathloop makes me feel smart, even though in some ways the game is giving you the answers. Like it's kind of like if you want to, you can funnel yourself to where you need to go.
Yeah,
like
100%.
It'll put up a marker on the screen. Like this will tell you. I'm not putting the markers up on the screen telling me where to go. I'm just letting it myself figure it out. But at the same time, in the notebook, it's keeping track of everything that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so if I do get stuck, I can come back to the notebook and be like, now where am I supposed to go again? But before the game told me how to herd the characters together, I was already piecing it together and writing it down on my own. Like, okay, and thinking about it in bed at night, like, okay, I know that I could get Charlie and Fia here. And I know that, what's that character's name? One of the characters. I know if I do this, this dude will show up at the end of the night at Alexis's house. It's like, okay, that's 4. Who else do I have to get? Okay, I know this one over here is the one that I can only get by herself. And then now it's like, it's just all piecing together. So I'm thinking about that. And then the next day, I got the hint. I got not the hints, but like the confirmation, like, okay, yep, that's the way to do it. Now, from what I understand, there's only one way to do this, right? There's one. The game.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. There's when you get to the ending, there's only one actual way to kill everyone, and yeah, well, not to kill everyone, but the places to kill them or whatever. Yeah.
And that's one of the things I wish the game maybe did a little bit better is give you more options for it. But I'm fine with it right now as it is. Like, let me get through it first and then come back and say, like, yeah, I think maybe they should have done it where I could have done it in different ways. But for what it is right now, just the level design, the voice acting, the weapons, I have some fucking awesome weapons. I really do. I have this like SMG pistol that I never have to reload because it's got 2 mags. So you can keep firing and reloading at the same time repeatedly. I am now invading other people's games as Juliana, which is not something I pictured myself doing, but I'm like, motherfucker, I got to go see what this is all about.
Yeah.
And I suck at it hard, really bad, because they're just like, instead of them playing into my hand, I'm just playing into their Colt's hands and like just forgetting the fact that Colt can be invisible. So I'm running around and now I know the guy who killed me was watching me run around for like 5 straight minutes in a circle being like, well, the guy's got to show up eventually. And he's just sitting on the roof because I never looked up. The voice acting is really good. The story is interesting. I've heard, I don't know how the game ends, but I know that one of the criticisms of the game is that it doesn't wrap up in a great way. That it kind of just ends. Yeah. And like, that's disappointing. And I'm probably judging from how many people have said it, I'm probably going to feel that way when I get there. Yeah. But I will say that, I'm reminded of like, if that's the case, I went to Hawaii once and Angela and I spent like 3 hours driving up this mountain. We drove up this mountain because supposedly the sunrise coming over this mountain was supposed to be incredible, like life-changing experience. We got all the way up there and it was cloudy as fuck. Couldn't see a damn thing. Yeah. But I enjoyed everything up to that. I enjoyed the trip to Hawaii. I enjoyed exploring everything that the island had to offer. And yes, the ending for me, like the big thing that I wanted to do was see the sunrise come over the mountain. So if the game doesn't wrap up the way that I'm hoping and hope that it's as fulfilling, I'm still enjoying enough of what the game has to offer in its lore, in its side stories, that I'm okay. And when I get there, we'll see. Like, maybe as long as it's not a steaming pile of shit, then I'm going to feel okay, at least about the experience. But I am taken hard with this game. And I was hoping that was going to be the case. But just like you, I was worried a little bit because these type of games, for arcane games aren't usually your thing. Hitman games aren't usually my thing. But I'm very taken with it right now.
Yeah, and I think, the ending not being great or not being satisfying can definitely be a ding against something. But especially with games, I feel like, it's this way with every kind of media. I think ending, the emphasis put on how something ends is always, I think, a little bit too much. But if you have 25 awesome hours with the game and then the 26th hour is just kind of like, that doesn't invalidate the 25 hours. You know what I mean? Alejandro says we should do a Hitman off like they do on Nextlander. And
I would totally do
we
it.
have the technology. We can literally do exactly that.
We should do it for Hitman 3.
We should. He says Colt turns out to be Chris Pratt. And Deathloop is just a disappointing Mario movie. That's the ending of Deathloop.
What did Chris Pratt say about the Mario thing?
It's a Mario.
No, he said he's not going to have the Italian accent.
No, he's not going to have the Italian.
He's
accent.
normal now.
He's normal now.
That
was a joke article. That was a joke article.
Okay,
that was a joke article.
I only saw the headline and I was like, what?
It's a joke. Mario's not Italian. He's normal now.
Okay, fantastic. I was still so mad about it. I was like, I refuse to click this.
And Hugh said exactly what I was thinking when you brought up the sunrise ride, which is this another house analogy, which was when Justin was trying to sell everyone the first year of Game of the Year for Talking Games, trying to sell everybody on Transistor. He made this huge like analogy about buying a house, and wrapped it around to Transistor.
Yep. It's the school districts, the bones of the house, like there's many things you have to take into consideration.
Well, after the experience you've had buying your house, Justin, I don't know if we can trust that analogy anymore. So
yeah, I know. Don't remind me.
It seems like you're wrong. That's great. I'm glad you're connecting to it so much. I'm gonna have to put a lot more time into it. I've been on this quest to finish games that I had already started, so I kind of dropped it for a little while, but it's sitting there. I did this thing the other day where I went through my Xbox and you can create like groups of games on the Xbox, like to put them in. So I made like a group of all the games I need to play on the Xbox and put them in there. And then I went on the PlayStation. You can't make folders yet, which really pisses me off. But I basically just started and I just loaded into and quit out of the four games or whatever on there that I want to make sure I remember to play. So they're sitting in the front of that thing. And then I actually went through my Steam wish list today and just I haven't added stuff to my Steam wish list. It's been like 5 years and it was full of like 90 things that I'm never going to play because they were all just like, and I went through and deleted all those and just added the games in that like I want to get on Steam that I haven't played yet. And so I'm but yeah, I mean, Deathloop sounds great. I definitely want to jump into it. The thing that's making me interested in playing it is because I like the Hitman games so much, like that. I think I'll end up really liking it quite a bit. And yeah, I mean, we both come into a couple of games this week that we're absolutely in love with, and we'll see if they stay in their places for the next couple of weeks and months as we charge towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
I want to just say we had one more question here that I want to get to. You asked a question also about New World. We haven't played it yet, so I don't want to say anything about New World until we've played it and comment on what I think its staying power would be. But yes, what are your feelings concerning the emulation of Metroid Dread on PC and the reaction to it in the gaming press? So if people don't know, there was a lot of discourse this weekend about an article that Kotaku published, and also one that not so much discourse, but PC Gamer also put up an article about this. Basically, emulators, pirates or whatever, got Metroid Dread running day one on an emulator on the PC, running at 60 frames per second in or uncapped frame rates at 4K. And looking and playing great basically. And Kotaku and PC Gamer both put footage of it, and I didn't read the PC Gamer article. I did read the Kotaku article. Kotaku sort of gave almost like a gleeful how-to on how to steal this game, and there was a big reaction, right, from a lot of people saying we've waited 15 years, 17 years for this Metroid game. Please buy the Metroid game and don't pirate it. And sites like Kotaku should not be putting out stories like this, because it doesn't help the industry or so on and so forth. Whatever. Kotaku's obviously coming on a lot of fire in the last couple of months. They've definitely had a very distinct direction to the way that they are formatting and promoting their articles. I would say one that's maybe purposely to get a rise out of people.
I'm going to say one thing.
Yes.
Here. If you see an article and it makes you upset, brings bile into the back of your throat, don't fucking share it with anybody. Just let it go.
Yeah.
Let it, there it goes. And it will eventually get buried in the news of the next day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You sharing it is what they want. That's what they want.
Yeah.
So if you feel like this is an outrage, just let it go.
Yeah.
It's video games. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Also, the more you share something, they don't. The sharing algorithm does not denote whether you shared it with a mean sentiment or a positive sentiment. It just knows you shared it, so it pushes up that in the algorithm regardless. So there is that point of it. Don't click the link. Don't. What is it? If you really don't want to be engaged, you think the story, the way they're reporting on stories is incorrect. If you don't care, if you just want to read the story and like get a rise out of it, laugh at it, or get personally angry about it, whatever, do what you're gonna do. There's nothing morally wrong with clicking on Kotaku stories. But if you don't like what they're doing, then you get rid of you prove that by suffocating them, by not giving them any air. The more air you give them, it doesn't care if you're like sneer quote pumping oxygen into their system or not. You're still doing it. The other point of this, right, is is it wrong that Kotaku reported on the first place? Absolutely not. It's not wrong. It's news. Like this is a major video game company, major release, and it's and people have figured out how to play it, not on that system on day one perfectly and in better form than it was already played.
In the same way, shape, and form, tons of video game places will talk about when a video game gets cracked 2 days after release.
Yeah, and
they figure out like how to get around the piracy. I forget what's the program that a lot of developers
like use. DeNovo,
yeah. It's like, they'll say like, oh, yep, it's been a week and it's already been like cracked for Resident Evil 8 or whatever like that. Yeah, and it's like it's not far away. It's not in the exact same bucket, but it's in the bucket next to the emulation bucket.
Yeah,
and so like that's news.
Yeah, it is not a video game a video game journalistic outlet's prerogative to only report on the things that are good for that are good about the industry, or they're good for the industry, or that help game sales. That's not their job. They're not ideally, they should not be a PR wing of video game companies. That would defeat the purpose of them existing. So it is news, absolutely. Do I personally feel like the tone and the sort of thesis of that Kotaku article was the wrong way to go? Yes, I do think so. Like personally, for what I feel and how I think, you can report that this is occurring. You don't need to sort of like give people a how-to on how to do it themselves. That's just I think bad reporting and bad. It's just, if you're going to be reporters, and I'm not saying you have to follow some sort of like exact code of ethics, or you have to be just like the other press is. I'm not saying you have to do that, but like, you're pointing towards an illegal act, right? And whether or not you think that illegal act is okay is sort of beyond the point doing that. And they came out and they were like, look, we think people our readers are grown-ups and they can decide for themselves what they want to do. And like, their whole thing and their whole tone is one thing. Like I think they definitely have, somebody in their organization was like, you need to hit these numbers. And they were like, okay, how do we hit these new high numbers without increasing our budget at all? And this is how we're going to do it. And I think that's why they're doing it this way.
Without a doubt. They want the hate clicks.
Yeah.
And look, there's always going to be, if they didn't do it, somebody else is going to come do it. There's always going to be the people that want that attention, because no pub is bad pub.
And I'm sure what a lot of probably the staff there is thinking, and not to put like, words in anybody's mouth or thoughts in anybody's mouth, is if we drive enough traffic to come to this one, because they really put up like one like article like that maybe a week, maybe every 2 weeks. It's not all of their articles, it's not all of their writers, it's not even that writer every single time they write something, but they hope that enough people come for that, and then they will see and stay for the other stuff that they write and put out, right? That's what they want. They want to get them people in the door, and hopefully it sort of like seeps down to the rest of their content that they're putting out. So I think that is the strategy, and I think it's up to you whether or not you want to be part of that strategy or not. That is completely up to you. I think that this idea that like nobody should talk about this, that's no, absolutely not. That they have every right to report on it, and they should report on it because it's news. If you want just what Nintendo wants you to hear, then you look at Nintendo press releases. Like that's what you should do. But that's not how the sites operate. So that's all I'll say about that. I also think people are making a way bigger deal of it than like they should. The amount of people who are going to pirate the game who would have actually bought the game is very minimal. Because everybody who would normally buy Metroid wants to play fucking Metroid and knows like that they haven't been Metroid in a long time, and they're not going to go through all of the hoops it takes to emulate a modern game, because it is harder to do that than it is to download a SNES emulator and just download a bunch of ROMs. It's a lot more involved. So that's all I'll say on that. Anything else you want to talk about today, Justin?
I beat Boomerang X.
Oh, yes.
I just wanted to. I think that game is fantastic.
Cool.
I finally sat down and just played for like a good solid 50, 60 minutes and finish it up just under 3 hours. There's a new game plus mode. I'll probably go back into it. It's a great game. Give it a shot.
Did you want to tell the people at home what the game is you've been telling me that you really need to start and try right now?
Need to start and try.
A game that's very Unjustin.
Need to start and try. There's so many
it's
of them,
on Game Pass.
I'm drawing a blank. Oh, Boyfriend Dungeon.
Boyfriend Dungeon, yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna give that a look. Because Bobby and I, like, we have our wheelhouse, right? We have our things that we like to look at. But around this time of year, I want to get more perspective. So I'll always type in like best games of the year so far.
Yeah.
And we'll get as many websites as we can. And we'll look and be like, I haven't heard of this game. It's on Steam. It's about some singing in space. Okay, add to wish lists.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like, I'll take a closer look at this.
I added that game to my wish list today, Justin.
Yeah, I added that yesterday. Boyfriend Dungeon was one of them. And I was like, all right, it's a dungeon crawler. It's a dating sim. I can fuck with that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's on Game Pass. Even better.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at a couple other things. I still need to play Eastward.
Scarlet Nexus is another game you've mentioned.
Scarlet Nexus is another game that I mentioned that I played the demo of and was just like, I'm not feeling this at all. And then I saw it on everybody's list and I was like, well, I guess I need to give it a bigger shot.
Are we going to have to buy Tales of Arise, Justin?
No, I'm not buying Tales of Arise. I am doing one anime game, and my anime game is going to be Scarlet Nexus. Dream Daddy was a Talking Games hit.
He was.
I think about Eastward is I want to play Eastward, but I kind of want to wait for my Steam Deck to come and play Eastward on that.
How does it run on the Switch?
I don't know.
It feels like that's be a really good Switch game.
It does feel like it would be a really good Switch game.
I haven't looked at what the Digital Foundry breakdown is or whatever on that game, but if that were on the Switch, then I would probably get that there.
Should we hold hands and go down the anime hole together, and you play Tales of Arise and I play Scarlet Nexus?
Well, in that anime hole, I have to shell out $70 and you get it for free.
It's true. This is a true story. We could. Oh God, I don't want to split with Tales of Arise. We talked about this when we saw it, like I forget what video game conference, and we were like, see, like Tales of Arise is a game we're never going to play because it doesn't interest either one of us.
Yeah.
And then we keep seeing it pop up in places.
Yeah.
There's a couple more games. I mean, there's some big ones still to come out this year that I wanted to take a look at. That Guardians game is pretty close. I think it's
next week
maybe.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see what kind of reviews that gets.
Yeah, me too.
I hope well, because
I
wouldn't mind playing it.
It seems like exactly the kind of like thoughtless action game that I could really fuck with right now. So
yeah, 100%. After I'm done with Deathloop, I really need I need to like plow through something that I don't have to think about at all.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. So it look, from your mouth, my mouth to God's ears, your mouth to God's ears. Please let Guardians be good, because I could really use it right now.
Oh, yeah, Boomerang X is on the Switch too, but I feel like I heard it does not run well on the Switch at all.
I would not play that game on the Switch. Running that on my PC, it handled fine almost all the time. Every now and again, it would hitch up for a half second, and then it would just go, and then be fine.
Justin, are you going to play FIFA 22? That's what Kiki wants to know.
The monetization in that game is awful, so no.
I think we could play the first 50. We could play 15 hours of it for free on Game Pass with EA Play or whatever. Yeah. I got there's a couple of little games too. Well, Opus Star Song, right, is like the singing in space game. Is apparently excellent. There's another game called Scarlet Hollow, which is like a horror game, but like a hand drawn, like very cool art style looking thing, which I have put on my wish list, which I'm interested in checking out. It's like the little games that I've seen.
We looked at the same lists.
Yeah. And that game, I looked
at all these games.
What I told you about the other day, today, Justin, is that what I say it was called? Inscription? What does it say?
Yeah, something like that.
Inscription, that like horror roguelike card game is coming out this next week, which I really want to play.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Got a cool ass art style. So little games. And then once I finish Dread, probably tomorrow I'll finish it. I'll run that over to Justin, give that to him. Then I'm gonna finish Resident Evil Village and Life is Strange, and then move on to new stuff.
I really liked Resident Evil Village.
I know you did.
Get on that.
I know you did. I can already tell. I mean, I played that first. I played the tall lady step on me level, and it was very good. So
step on me.
Yeah, the shadowy card game. Yes, with the weird art, with a cool art style. Yes, that comes out on the 12th. There's a demo out on Steam right now, so I might check that out. All right, so that's gonna do it, I think, for this week. Please, we're on YouTube now, so smash that subscribe button, hit that like, ring that bell. It really helps. Like the amount of views we got on the last podcast is like because of the amount of likes that we had, the amount of views that accumulated. It's not a ton, but compared to it's like as much as the previous 4 combined. So keep hitting those likes. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Please. Misadventure.land. If you're listening to this, you're like, how do I find their YouTube channel? Go to misadventure.land. It'll take you right to the YouTube channel. On Twitter and Instagram at misadventureland without the A. So misadventurelund, LND. Yes, that's what it is. I'm at Bobby Shortle on Twitter. Justin
_says_hey.
And we'll be back next week with more of a games discussion. But until then, thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you to everybody who's watching and listening. Until next time, be good to one another. Later.